Hello, and if I failed to say it last time, then I'll say it this time. Happy New Year to those I have not said it to nor seen. So I hope that you will find this year a profitable one. But now our lesson, let me get right into the lesson. And the series is the power of prayer. And our lesson for today, they that wait, on the Lord. That's the key word, wait on the Lord. And after studying this lesson, students are reminded that they need to learn how to wait for the Lord. In fact, when I started my Christian journey, I was about 9 years old at the not Greater Tabernacle, it wasn't St. Stephen, First Virginia Avenue. They had a choir called the Jubilee, and they sung a song, and it was led by Sister Valerie Montgomery, that it was called Teach Us, Lord, How to Wait. And I used to think, now that song, I don't know why we need the Lord to teach us how to wait. And now I know. Because see, one thing we need to understand, that he moves in his own time, but he will come and help us in his time. He'll help us out of our plight. And this is our lesson today. The issue of waiting is seen in the first phrase of verse 2. And it says, because now we in Joshua understand, chapter 3, verse 2. And it says, so it was after 3 days, which means they had to wait 3 days. They are at the Jordan River, but they had to wait. And as they waited, they no doubt, became increasingly aware that crossing the Jordan River was impossible to them. It was impossible. The Jordan River was only about 100 feet wide, but if you like me, that's wide. And most of the year it was 100 feet wide, but during the spring flood stage, which this was the spring flood stage, it became a mile wide. And the people knew. They knew they could not swim across it. They could not build enough rafts or boats to transport over 1 million people. They did not have time to build a bridge. There was only one way around the problem, and that was not to go around the problem, but through it. Because I want you to know, remember this, if God brings you to it, he will bring you through it. Now, and it was at the very beginning, it was at the very time that the people were faced with tremendous difficulties. They knew they were at the end of their resources. Notice I said they were at the end of their resource, not the source. See, the resource has to depend on the source. Teach, Geneva, that God would know how, God would be able to show his power. We need to understand that when we come to the end of our resources, now God is able to show his power. So it's never about what we can do, but it's always about what the Lord will do. The Apostle Paul said in Ephesians 3 and 20, now to him who is able. Woo! The key word there is able to do far more abundantly beyond all that we ask or think. He can do it, but it's according to the power that works within us. You remember a father came to Jesus and he said, Lord, my son, he has a problem. He falls in the fire. He has seizures. And I need you to help him. And the Lord said, do you believe? That's all he said, do you believe? And he said, yes, I believe, but help my unbelief. And I often thought about that. I said, well, now, wait a minute. Either you believe or you don't believe. But we're that way sometimes. We believe, but within us, there's a little doubt. I don't know. But the Lord knows us. So we need to understand that the God we serve is able. Let me tell you another time. You remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were thrown into the fiery furnace because they did not bow. Now, somebody told on them, and I said, hey, whoever told on them, they wasn't bowing either. Because if I'm bowing, I can't see whether you bowing or not. And so the king, he got mad. Nebuchadnezzar, he got mad. And he said, bring them to me. And they said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is it true that you would not bow? And they said, oh, king, they were respectful, live forever. But the God we serve is able. Yes. See, that used to be an old church song written by Roberta Martin. Don't you know God is able? There is nothing that God can't do. And they said, we know the God we serve is able. But if he selects not to, it won't be because he's not able to do it. It's because he's decided he's not going to do it. And if he don't do it, we still not going to bow. See, that's the kind of attitude, the kind of swag, the kind of faith that we need to have. We still ain't going to bow. But now let me go back to reading. I wasn't reading, was I? I was telling you. He is able, but you have got to have the faith. If we didn't have these problems, how will we know God could solve them? How will we know what faith in God can do? But through it all, we've learned to trust in Jesus. We've learned to trust in God. Well, let's look at our lesson. Joshua chapter 3, verse 1 through 17. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Acacia Grove and came to the Jordan, he and all the children of Israel, and lodged there before they crossed over. So it was. They lodged there how long? 3 days. So it was after 3 days that the officers went through the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, when you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, the ark, okay, and the priests, the Levites bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and go after it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you must go. Woo! For you have not passed this way before. And every time I read those words, it takes me back. I know, I'm going to finish. It takes me back to February the 15th. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and the nursing home called. Of course, I was in bed asleep. And they said, your mother is transitioning. And I said, I'll be right there. I rushed out 2 o'clock in the morning, not caring who was on the street, what time it was, and rushed to my car. And when I got on the expressway, I was going, folks, a tremendous rate of speed. And something said, now the police are going to stop you. I said, if they do, they can lead me to Signature East. But then I began to pray. And you know what I said? These words right here. Lord, I need you. Because I have never passed this way before. I have never been this way before. I have never seen a day like this day. I don't know how to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm turning it over to you because I have never walked this way before. I have never been in a world where I couldn't say, Mama! But I knew that I was now facing that day. And I'm here to tell you, next month, my mother would be gone 13 years. And I'm still here. God will. That's what she said, my last words she said to me and my sister. God will take care of you. All right, let me get back. And Joshua said to the people, sanctify yourself, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Then Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, take up the ark of the covenant. Here we go with the ark of the covenant again, and cross over before the people. So they took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. And the Lord said to Joshua, this day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. You shall command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant, saying, when you come to the edge of the water of the Jordan, you shall stand in the Jordan. Whoa! So Joshua said to the children of Israel, come here and hear the words of the Lord your God. And Joshua said, by this you shall know that the living God is among you. Whoa, God Almighty. And that he will not fail to drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Jebusites. Whoa, there's a whole lot of sites there. Behold, that's verse 11. I thought it said I. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is crossing over before you into the Jordan. Now, therefore, take for yourselves 12 men from the tribe of Israel, one man from every tribe. And it shall come to pass. Oh, Lord, I love to read those words. Come to pass. It shall come to pass. Please know that everything shall come to pass. If you don't get anything else out of this lesson, but you ought to get more than just that out of this lesson. Remember, it shall come to pass. It don't come to stay. It comes to pass. As the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the waters of the Jordan, that the waters of the Jordan shall be cut off. I can't help but stop and think that our ancestors used to sing, "Get away, Jordan." Get away, Jordan. Get on away from us. The waters that come down from upstream, and they shall stand as a heap. So it was. When the people set out from their camp to cross over the Jordan, with the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as those who bore the ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests who bore, now the feet of the priests who carried the ark, not just any priest, but the ones who were carrying the ark, when it dipped in the edge of the water, the Jordan overflowed all its banks during the time of the harvest, that the waters which came down from upstream stood still. Now, I don't know about you, but water don't do well standing still. If it does, it's a flood. And rose in a heap very far away at Adam. That's the city that is beside Zaratan. So the waters that went down into the sea of the Arabian, the Salt Sea, fell and were cut off, and the people crossed over opposite Jericho. Then the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord, now catch it, stood firmly on dry ground. Now you know and I know, if the Jordan had been flowing there, and it had, how is it going to be dry ground? Look, we still got snow out there and ice, and the ground is not firm, let alone dry. But they stood firm on dry ground in the midst, in the middle of the Jordan, and all Israel crossed over on dry ground until all the people had crossed over completely over the Jordan. Now, the children of Israel were ready to cross the Jordan River into the promised land. But they were crossing, I'll say it again, at the worst time of the year. The river was flooded out of its banks and not easy to cross. So the Jordan was a problem to the children of Israel. It was a problem for them to cross over the Jordan into the promised land. That's why I related to you a few seconds ago, that our foreparents used to sing, "Get away, Jordan." See, the Jordan was overflowing, and they wanted to cross over and go to the promised land. The promised land to them was heaven, because he promised. Now, I have a point to ponder. What is your Jordan? What keeps you from going over? What hinders you or stops you so that you feel that you cannot go over to the Jordan, to Jordan? Is it the family? Is it friends? Is it finances? Is it fear? Or is it foes? What hinders you from going on and following God? See, God had given his promise to Jordan and the Israelites, and now it is time for a test. Please understand, God will test your faith. A faith that fizzles at the beginning and it cannot stand the test. It had fought with it from the beginning. So you need to please understand, he is going to test your faith so you can exercise it. See, many of us have flabby faith because we don't want to exercise it. We cannot do what God does, and God will not do what we're supposed to do. It was the worst time of the year, but it was the best time for them to be tested. So the officers went through the camp giving orders to the people. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord and the priests who are Levites carrying it, you are to move out from your position and follow it. That's what you're supposed to do. And now let me say this. Let me just kind of go to this, give you a little throw in. This isn't the first time Israel has been in this situation. This isn't the first time you have been in that situation. Whatever situation you are facing, it is not the first time. You see, because a little over 40 years ago, Israel were at the Red Sea. And God had promised to deliver them from Egypt. But he led them to the Red Sea. There was no bridge in front of them, but Pharaoh with his army was behind them. They are in a bad way. But all I can say, but God. Ha! But God. So, now we come to divine delay. I didn't say delay, I said divine delay. When you're traveling before, have you ever seen the flashing lights that says expect delays? And that's pretty good sound advice. But let's just admit it. And our lesson is entitled, They That Wait on the Lord. Well, waiting on God is not an easy task. And let me just say right here, right now, when I say wait on God, I don't mean take your seat, sit down, fold your arms, and say, Lord, I'm waiting. You need to keep on doing what you're doing and wait. See, you're not at a restaurant with the waitress and the waiter going to wait on you, so you sit there and you wait and you say, I need some more water. Will you give us some more bread? Waiting means wait. Now look at Isaiah 40 and 30 and 31. Even the youth shall faint. And that means give out. and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Then Psalms 27, 13 and 14. And I just have to say this. This is my niece's favorite scripture. And if she is looking, and she might be because she's had just had back surgery, this is for you, Marty, and the situation that you're in now. 13, I had fainted, give up, unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. I don't have to go to heaven to see his goodness. I see it right here, right now in the land of the living. So therefore, wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thy heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. And waiting has its advantage to us, because waiting makes us realize we are dependent. Faith may require that we wait, but as we wait, we learn that God will take care of you. I'm here to tell you, I'm teaching you something. When you have to wait, you will learn God will. God will. Not your job, not your family, not your spouse, not your children. God will take care of you. We will also learn that God will make a way out of no way. Well, there was no way for them to get across the Jordan. 40 years ago, it was no way for them to get across the Red Sea, but God cut the highway. God can make a way out of no way. And they will learn, you will learn, where he guides, he will provide. Oh, yes, he will. If he takes you to it, he will take you through it. And faith recognizes that sometimes God chooses to work in new ways. And now this is where we come to the Ark of the Covenant. Because he said, get the priest and carry it. Why, wait a minute, Lord, why are we trying to get across the Jordan? And you told us we'd get across the Jordan, we can take Jericho. So what's so important about the ark? The ark was a physical symbol of God's presence in their midst. You see, and that's what they carry, God's presence in their midst. Now, let me stop here for a moment and say, it recognized the promises and the person of God. Now, the bottom part, the box part, that is the ark. In it was the communion, Aaron's rod. Oh, shoot, there was something else. Okay, there's something else. My mind is gone. But see, the top part, where you see those angels bowing, that's the mercy seat. And that's where God invites us to come when we have a problem. He said, come to the mercy seat. Where ye language. Here bring your wounded heart. Here tell your anguish. Because earth has no problem that heaven cannot heal. And if he gives us the right to come to the mercy seat, why don't we go? I don't know about you, but I run to the mercy seat. Oh, yes. And do what the lesson said last week. I think it was last week's lesson. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Mercy is what I need. And so the ark, it was a symbol of God's presence in their midst. It represented the person and promises of God. It pointed to the fact that as the people of Israel set out to cross the Jordan, invade and possess the land, they must do so in their own strength, not in their own strength, but in the strength of God. Now look at that picture. Because I want you to know they got to have faith. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Now, look at them. The priests, they not worried. They not looking and eyeballing the water to make sure the water stay up. They not even looking down. I guess I'd be looking down and say, how come my feet ain't sticking in mud? But they standing there holding the Ark of the Covenant. And they stood there until all of Israel had passed across. Now, and let me say, the ark had to go first. The position of the ark, it was first. They had to step out and carry the ark before they could even start to come across, because they were told to stay so far behind it. And what does first mean? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I thought of it. Following God in faith, respectfully showing our trust in him. I don't know about you, but I would go across that singing, I will trust in the Lord until I die. And when I die, I'm still going to be trusting him. So, the preeminence of the ark. When Israelites followed the ark, they were following God. And when you follow God, there are two things that is required. Faith. You got to have faith, and then be ready to wait. God does not work in your time. He works in his time. Faith means willing to step out. So I ask you again, what hinders you? With the river raging, the priests acted in faith, and the instant their feet touched the water's edge, the water upstream completely stopped. It piled up in a great heap distance away and was completely cut off. Faith means we're willing to step out. Are you willing to step out? Faith means that we believe God's word. God said it. I believe it. That settles it. The late Eunice Campbell once said, she was teaching, God said it, That settles it, whether you believe it or not. If God said it, that settles it. Now, that belief is up to you. If when you pray and you don't believe that God is going to give you what you're asking for, why? Why pray? Huh? Why pray? Hebrew 11:6 tells us, but without faith, it is impossible to please God. It didn't say it was hard. It said it is impossible to please God. You must believe that God is able and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So Joshua reassured the people that God will drive out the inhabitants of the promised land. Then he said, see, the covenant of the ark of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Joshua told them what was about to happen is how you will know that the living God is among you. He is the Lord of all the earth. Now I got another point to ponder. What is the difference in Israel crossing the Red Sea and crossing the Jordan River? Was it harder for them to cross the Jordan River than the Red Sea? Well, I would say it might have been harder, not physically harder, but it might have been just a little bit harder. What is the difference in crossing the Red Sea and crossing the Jordan? Well, Moses just stuck out the rod over the Red Sea, and God rolled the water back. But for the Jordan River, they had to step out into the Jordan River, and only then did the river stood up in a heap. So the first one, they didn't have to do anything. God did it all. But we're talking about 40 years later, God had carried them through the wilderness, had fed them, had taken care of them. Now he brings them to the Jordan River. Well, yeah, they should be ready. Understand this, if your faith is still back 40 years ago, something's wrong. You need to come on out to Sunday school. You need to come to Sunday school anyway. But you need to learn God. Where in your life do you need a miracle? What is your raging Jordan River? No matter how hopeless it may seem, Jesus promised in Mark 9:23b and Matthew 9:29b, according to your faith will it be done to you. I just want you to understand that faith releases the miraculous power of God in our lives. Now, and here's another point. Faith makes us realize that we are defenseless. When we fail to pray, we leave ourselves defenseless. The old school church had a song that they were saying, "Where could I go but to the Lord?" Another song was, "Jesus be a fence all around me every day." When we pray, we allow the fence to hem us in, and nothing, no thing can get to us. Satan hates to see you on your knees praying. I read the other day, he had a little poem or something I was reading, and it showed this man praying. And it said Satan thought he had me beat, and he was happy because I was on my knees and my head was hung down, until he heard me say amen. Then Satan knew that he was praying, and excuse my French, he got the hell away from him, because Satan cannot stand up under you and God. When you call on God, you calling on all of heaven and earth's resources. Now, let me just hurry up and give you this last part. Luke 11, chapter 5 through 13. Verse 5 through 13. And he said unto them, "Which of you shall have a friend, and shall go unto him at midnight, and say to him, Friend, lend me 3 loaves. For a friend of mine in his journey is come to me, and I have nothing set before him. And he from within shall answer and say, Trouble me not. No, dude, it's late. The door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I will not get up and give bread to you." That's not all he said, but that's what he was saying. "I say unto you, though he will not rise and give him, because he is his friend, yet, yes, even then, because of his importunity, he will rise and give him as many as he needs." Now, look what it's saying. The man knew he had someone he could turn to when in need. So you have the picture of a prevailing prayer. Keep knocking. To him that knocketh, it shall be open. The man, now notice, there's certain things I want you to check this out. The man knew he could turn to somebody. He knew who he could turn to. And guess what? The man didn't wake up one of the kids. He went himself. The man made a specific request. He didn't ask for everything. I need something. Give me something. No. Wait a minute. No one is answering the door. What should the man do? He kept on knocking. So when you don't get what you need to keep on knocking. Because the contrast between God and the man, the provider is reluctant because he was asleep. But God is never reluctant or asleep. The man answers the door because of importunity. But there is a promise. Ask, that's the petition. Seek, That's petition with effort. That's why he's gone to his neighbor. Knock, petition, effort, and persistence. The man didn't answer him on the first knock, but keep on knocking. I know some of you saying, well, Jesus, he knows everything. He ought to know what I need. I shouldn't have to ask. Ask the Savior to help you. If you need, ask, seek, and knock. Because I'm telling you, there's a promise in that. For him that asks, receives, and he that seeks, finds, and he that knocks, the door is open. Luke 18:1. One day Jesus told his disciples a story to show that they should always pray and never give up. Hebrews 4:16. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Isaiah 58:9. Then when you call, the Lord will answer, yes, I am here. He will quickly reply. Isaiah 65:24. This is a promise. I will answer them even before they even call to me. While they are still talking about their needs, I will go ahead and answer their prayers. And if you don't believe me, go to Daniel chapter 8 while he is praying. And God had already sent Gabriel. Gabriel was going from one foot to another, waiting for Daniel to get through with his prayer. And his prayer wasn't long. It was only about 3 or 5 minutes long. And he was there with the answer. But let me tell you, you don't have to pray by yourself. You don't have to pray. Look around wondering who you can get to pray. Come on and join us here at St. Stephen. You need prayer, you need join us. Call 502-583-6798. Again, I'm going to say it. 502-583-6798. Tell somebody, I need prayer. Will you pray for me? Somebody pray for me. Had me on their mind. Took the time and prayed for me. I'm so glad they prayed. I know who prayed for me. My mama did. I'll tell you about it next week. My mama prayed for me. If you want to join us, then send an email to New Start. You want a new start? Write to New Start at ssclive.org. Say, I want a new start. Decision Counselor will contact you. Well, that's it for today. Our lesson for next week is, we did they that wait on the Lord today. Is your all on the altar? You don't want to miss it. Be blessed. I'll see you next week. Be blessed.